This is a recap on the film Cyborg Cop 2. Yes, there was a first one, and the first one was practically introducing our character, Dave Bradley, what played Jack Ryan. Yes, Jack Ryan. Yes, the one and only DA agent what takes on cyborgs. But his young older brother took him on first, what has a special ability of wanting to adopt children. And his younger brother ends up adopting him, obviously, in the end of the first film to the sequel. And why am I mentioning about this poor little lad he adopts? Well, he comes major into this other part of this movie. So, our DA agent is used to killing cyborgs by using motorcycles and decapitating them. But in this movie, it's been building up with Jesse Starcraven as a convicted murderer, being held in prison just to be let... What? That don't make sense, but yeah, it's just like this review ain't going to make sense. Yeah, the story plot goes a little bit weird and off, so let's speed it up a bit. Yeah, Jesse Starcraven killed Dave Bradley's partner, and he's very revengeful and he wants to track him down because he escaped from prison. No, he didn't. Our character villain was made into a cyborg, and this is what the build-up of this movie is about, that our hero doesn't know that he becomes a cyborg. And then the big massive finale, as you might expected, would have been at the petrol station, is not the finale, but they finally gradually meet each other and they find out that he is a cyborg. Does it make sense?
So what's up, everyone? Yeah, it's strange that a cyborg is shooting at our Jack Ryan and he's hiding behind one of them old classic Ford Sierras, what was designed by a jelly mould. And he shoots at that motor, and his infrared doesn't really work because I don't think he has it, where you see it from his point of view, that he's shooting the car, and it blows up and he hasn't noticed that Jack Ryan's not behind it. So this is a strange part of the movie, that I think that Jack Ryan might be a cyborg, or he's got the strength of a cyborg, because our villain wanted to get diesel, so I'm gathering he's hanging around where the diesel's been stored, or maybe petrol, because our Jack Ryan gets up to this where this tank is and he ends up tipping it with ease. He picks it up. Maybe he's got the strength of a cyborg. Anyhow, our villain picks the tank up and threatens to throw it at him, and Jack Ryan shoots it and everything explodes. I mean, this is when we find out that our villain is very virtuous or indestructible against explosions. And we'll find out a lot later on in the movie as well. So everything is exploding in this gas station, and our villain's being picked up. Even we think he's lost a hand, but you know, he's rested the cyborgs. Sort of leg it and run away from the scene, leaving Jack Ryan just to get arrested by the local fuzz. What take him to a strange... they take him to the ATTG. And that's where our character meets Liz whatever. The thing is, this guy is terrible. When he claps eyes on it, he's just doing all this cringy, horrible flirting. Yeah. It gets really grossed out. Disgustingly, yeah.
How's it, miss?
Liz.
However, I would like to play. Maybe I've just never met a woman
really
like
gross
you.
stuff.
Real cute.
I mean, the one-liners. Nah. No.
You're even nicer up close.
Yeah. So, that happens. Yeah, alright, fair enough, there ain't no love interest in the movie, but she started off being the villain. Now our Jack Ryan's just creeping us out with this. And then when she tells them to guys to take him away
Oh,
from
free this evening,
custody,
if you wanna
he does
change
this
your mind about
weird
that, right?
dancing, fighting, but he's still on about her.
I think
like
she
she's going to
she was
really,
running right at you. Did you see
get
that
off
look in
with
her
him or
eyes?
something.
Oh,
It's
yep,
just
she was
so
one.
creepy.
Yep, she had that gleam in her eye.
Jack has to be very sarcastic, and he handcuffs one guy. And then we go on to our next scene where we see our star Craven getting fixed up by his rest of his little team of cyborgs. And he's so upset with Jack Ryan that he always sends two of his cyborgs to hunt him down. So we jump onto Jack Ryan, where we know he's very good at building bombs, but we never actually saw him do it in the first film. But he knows how to make bombs. And why is he doing this? He's at the old sheriff's horse ranch. And next thing, two cyborgs just turn up. They found him. And the first thing what comes out of Jack Ryan's mouth is
Then we
a
want to see
funny
Spartacus.
joke
We'll rent the
about
movie.
Spartacus, the movie. If he goes, I want to go to see Spartacus, I'll rent the movie. Ha ha ha, very funny. But no, not as funny as what happens next. Jack Ryan takes on both cyborgs. No, they split him in between each other. The old gentleman thinks, aha, I'll get in my pickup and run one over. Jack Ryan, different idea. I'll just charge up this welder and then say something sarcastic to Cyborg by breathing in his face, and then keep on repeating it. And then the old gentleman, oh dear, he gets blown up. Literally blown up. But he doesn't die. But what's our Jack Ryan doing? Still welding a robot. Well, blobber dabbing it or something. And then it goes on to another shot. This goes on for ages. I think most of the movie is done by this bit. And obviously with editing and all this lot, I've got to shrink this down because all Jack Ryan does is just welds this poor robot. It's tormenting it. And the poor old geezer, what's meant to be in the movie, is getting absolutely massacred by this cyborg. The cyborg thinks, I'll just use my knife on him now instead of shooting him. And Jack Ryan's still welding this robot. And then finally, the poor old geezer gets stabbed. You think Jack Ryan would have saved the day, but he doesn't. And then, some weird reason, these cyborgs are attractive to road flares. I thought they couldn't see at first when he started attacking them with it, but now he's thrown one in the barn and the cyborg's attracted to go to it. And then it blows up. So everything blows up, the barn, but then Liz McDowell turns up in another old 70s car, and her goons get out, and they sort of like apprehend Jack Ryan, and Jack Ryan comes out with his famous speech. But when we see in all this that the TTG guys have got their own little stretcher and they put the old man's dead body on it, but you know, why would they have that? It's just something strange. It's just, you know, like the other guys back in the warehouse, you know, the DEA agents. But this time we saw a car, not an ambulance. So where did that come from? Sorry, I'm Yorkshire. I'm just getting confused and making most of this, you know, this dilemma. And then Jack Ryan just explains that with my knowledge and your weapons, we more or less should team up or something, or is he doing the horrible flirting bit again? I think, and. This is where the movie gets a bit more weirder, because she has a entire army of agents, and Nah.
What do you suggest?
Your weapons, my know-how.
No army she's gonna bring. So, next scene is on our villain. Yes, and he's explaining that he's going to make the whole entire world that you can raise into cyborg slaves. And his first one, his main speech is Jack Ryan. And then the next shot we see Al Camino pickup truck, yeah! And it's our brunette what's driving it with full of weapons for our Jack Ryan to take on the entire cyborg army at that nuclear power plant. I assume it is the cooling towers. Oh, sorry Dave Bradley, yeah! It's Dave Bradley what's driving the El Camino. So, they go through all this arsenal of weapons at the back. What made it confusing, because I thought it was her pickup. But never mind that. There's some interesting gadgets what they're going to take on these cyborgs with. Yeah. Very interesting things. Like these grenades. Wow, that looks powerful. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so they go in. And Dave Bradley, I don't think he's being sarcastic when he is on about going through the back door, because he's already been through there and never got noticed. But the cyborgs were going out for a trip to get some diesel at the time. But this time they're all indoors watching him on CCTV cameras. Yeah, and like the first one, they're not aware of these cameras back then. So, you get a strange sexist remark from our villain that he's very upset that he's brought a, yeah.
He comes alone with only a woman? Who the fuck does he think he is?
So it's an interesting comment. You might think of views of women that are cyborg, but the thing is now they're going into the power station. And Liz McDowell is planting bombs. Oh, be careful, you know, he dropped that one. Oh, not why he's actually putting bombs in the nuclear power station, but they are. And then this weird thing happens. Maybe it could be Dave Bradley's fanny pack what's rubbing up against her, but then you can't really see it because he's got a big, massive grenade belt above dangling there. So they're going sneaking around, and the first thing they do when they see a cyborg, that they don't use any fancy grenades or anything, no. Dave Bradley's character Jack Ryan just gets his automatic sniper rifle, a SR-25 exactly, maybe. It sounds like one, maybe. Not too sure. But this thing just takes these cyborgs out. I mean, he's diving about and doing everything. And, you know, all these grenades were just seen and stuff and everything. No, Dave Bradley's just taking them out with a sniper rifle. Every single one of the cyborgs. And then they go through the old set props from the first one, I presume, with the you know, the little laboratory they had back then. Yeah. So we're having a nice lovely shot of the props from the previous movie we saw, and then all of a sudden all these TV monitors come on like we've seen before on the other film. And then it's our villain. What's actually, he's quite brilliant, this baddie, because he's got the upper hand on Jack Ryan. He's got Frankie, the little boy what he adopted. How do these cyborgs know all this information and don't really do anything with it? But anyhow, the cyborgs more or less bragging that, you know, he's got the upper hand on Jack, and he tells him to surrender and lay down his weapons. Meaning his rifle and his guns. But not his bombs. You'll find out later on he keeps hold of his bombs, because they take him straight up to see the villain.
Come on, Scorpion, I'm calling you out.
Because he wants a showdown with him. And then I think Jack Ryan gets a little bit bored listening to him speaking, because first thing he says, I'm going to kill the kid, and then, well, I'm going to throw him off. Yeah, we know this guy's unpredictable, like, you know, we saw at the beginning, but then he rubs it in saying, oh, I'm going to make a cyborg out of your woman. And I'm like, well, where did all this come from? Where did this romance come from? Oh, we see them being tucked in and tight cornered together. And they heard all this weird saying.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah. I thought you might thank me for getting us out of a tight situation.
We're still in a tight situation.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? Yeah. How could I miss that out? Well, it was very interesting, but yeah. So, now, Jack Ryan is like, come on, bring it on, and then Star Craven says, I'm going to kill the kid and throw him off, and you look at Jack Ryan, he looks a little bit puzzled, but then we figure out what he's seen. A convenient rope dangling there. I didn't notice, and then Jack Ryan just does a spinning roundhouse kick, because he must be a cyborg, he's got cyborg legs, because he managed to kick these cyborgs with ease. But he was a martial artist, as we should know, back with American Ninja days. Maybe that accounts for him attacking cyborgs? Don't know, who cares? Anyhow, he swings on this rope, does a bit of a Tarzan, and completely misses our villain. But don't worry, as we all know, he's still got his bombs, and he does a bit of ducking and weaving and attaching bombs on him, and there's bits of puff of smoke coming out of our main villain, because he must be the main boss fight on a video game or something, you know. It's just terrible. It just is. Yeah. But don't worry, the main guy in this film is our little lad. Finally, he's got a great big role in this, our little Frankie. Notice, there's a magnet. And you can gather what they're going to do with that. So I've been wondering, back in the ticket we all heard all this fancy speech about how powerful these grenades were. Well, they don't seem that powerful with little puffs of smoke on our main villain. But then he has the capability to jump up in the air and say this stupid saying to our Jack, saying, I bet you think this hurts, don't you? It doesn't hurt. Right, okay. That don't make sense, but this film doesn't make sense. And then our little hero, you know, our little chappy, yeah, with magnet, yeah, go on Frankie, yeah, to save the day. But Dave Bradley, with ease, grabs that bracelet. We knew that bracelet would come into it. Grabs it with such ease. Lad zaps him up with magnet. And our villain, you know, he's got a machine gun attached to him. He could have shot Jack Ryan any time he wanted. Oh, no. Then he starts to decide to shoot at him at a very close distance. And then you've got Liz McDowell shouting at him. Because she's more bothered about herself, because she's surrounded by these cyborgs, but, you know, with these, they get electrocuted. She survives, she's alright. But, you know, you know, so she survives all that electrocution and stuff, but, you know, fancy effects and that. Anyhow, they drop our villain onto these wires and he starts sparking. Even they've pressed that button on that bracelet that he's not dead. Anyhow, Jack starts pouring this flammable water on him or something, because he uses that cigarette lighter, like License to Kill, and everything goes up with a bang. I mean, literally a big bang. Even Liz McDowell's been planting bombs all over a nuclear power station. Yeah, everything goes with a great big massive bang. Yeah. And then practically, yeah, you can gather that is practically the end. And then you get that surprise thing. Yeah, is he alive? Nah, it just bleeding ends when walking off to the sunset.
How explain this?
I mean, the thing is, he said to her, you're in a lot of trouble.
Feeling confident.
Practically. Yeah, of course she is. You're planting bombs in and you're going ballistic. Obviously it's got repercussions of... No, none of that. The film just ends. So, I've got through it. So, that is the film, Cyborg Cop 2.